Alright folks, welcome back everyone. 皆さんおかえりなさい。今日は147日目です。It is day 147. Let's get into our 3 grammar lessons today. Dashi, second one. Second usage. Typical of or ish, like appropriate or becoming befitting. Interesting. Follows a noun. In our first Dashi lesson was to discuss the auxiliary verb use of Dashi, which is like to, it appears like situation. In this lesson, we will focus on the keiyoshi no ichibu auxiliary adjective usage. I see. An auxiliary adjective is a type of adjective that must be attached to another word for it to have any meaning. To use dashi in this way, it must be attached to the end of a noun, A, and will imply that something is typical of A, where A is the noun that comes before it. As this, dashi behaves like an E adjective. It may also be conjugated to dashiku before a B phrase. Will explain more about what it's typical of. I see.
トムは本当に男らしいね。
Interesting. 男らしいね。
タケルくんはもうお兄ちゃんなので、お兄ちゃんらしくしなさい。
Okay.
やっと10月らしい天気になったね。
Okay. I guess you can only become one once, so why not come like October weather? I see. The primary use of this rashi is to express that A has some feature or trait that is expected of itself. Okay. It can be used for people. Starting all night is so typical Tanaka. Or it can be used for things like seasons. This heat is so typical of the Japanese summer. Other common translations are to be befitting of A or to be appropriate for A. However, they may also be used negatively to show that something is often surprisingly uncharacteristic of A.
トムがこんなに勉強をしているのは見たことがない。トムらしくない。
Interesting.
今日は8月らしくないです。涼しいです。彼女は女らしくない人だ。
Almost all of them use nai. Alright, I mean, because they're all negative. Shikunai, so Rashikunai, and there's a noun version, copula, and just straight up. When the noun that appears in A and B are the same, it will imply that A is the prime example B or the most A, B. 今年の yeah, I was gonna say ocho. 今年の8月は新しい、夏らしい、夏だね。sorry. 夏らしい、夏だね。Okay, I see. Interesting. Kind of reminds me of how like more and more works and okay. Easy enough. Okay, Rashi is our only. Wow, there are a lot of related things. Oh man, dang, that's a lot of related things. Okay, so the ones we have before was mitai ni. Okay, mitai na. It seems they experience likeliness, but mitai requires a comparison. Yeah, mitai suggests resemblance despite being different. Nashi describes something that fits, okay. Nashi has two related, both distinct, right? Nashi one was to convey that there's a third-party source of a nuance that speaker believes to be true, yeah. And this one is a characteristic of something, okay. Alright, what in the kind of thing, kind of vibe? Adding a te? Te, right, te. Kanji. Feeling. Kanji. Alright, so this is a casual phrase which is used to say that something feels like or has the vibe of something, yeah. And it is made up of the casual, oh, quotation mark, that's what that is, okay. There's no, and then the noun kanji, meaning feeling, similar to ending a sentence with kind of thing, tends to soften a statement and make it now more indirect. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of like this, just like this, like that, like that. This in my opinion captures a lot of the casual English likeness. Like, you know what I mean? Like this. It's kind of, I guess, that kind of like Nihon, okay. Oh, this is actually a new grammar point. Interesting. Nihonjin de kanji. Nihonjin de kanji. たくさん食べたいって感じだね。Okay. かわいいって感じの子だよ。感じの子だよ。Okay. Oh, complicated. What is that? 複雑って感じ。This is frequently used to wrap up loose train of thought. A speaker may explain the situation and then add this to summarize the general gist or atmosphere what they just said. Yeah, like kind of not exactly the same as like desne, like looking for confirmation, but more like it was like that. That's just what it is, right? Or oh, it do be what it's like, it do be like that. Alright. Anyways. 昨日は朝から雨で、電車も late 遅れて、oh no wait. Yeah, 遅れて会社にoh 会社に着いたらもう、に着いたらもう、interesting。に着いたらもう、会議が始まって、oh, and yep, that's the conjunction. Oh, goodness. 城、城も、忘れて、conjunction again. もう最悪だったって感じ。Okay. Wait. Yesterday from... Alright. Because of the morning rain. Yesterday regarding the morning rain. The train was late, and then the meeting regarding the meeting has already started, and you forgot forgot what? Shiroi documents, and then it was the worst. Yep, it was the worst. It felt like it was the worst, or it's just like the worst. Okay. Dang. Okay. This is a casual spoken phrase. In written or more formal context, it could sound too vague and as if the speaker thoughts are not well formed. Yep. Basically, same feeling. Whenever someone says something like, does that make sense at the end of a sentence or something like that? Or, I think so, I guess. It's like that. Most of it is imprecise, unsure. Even though it's spoken casually, I still am not convinced when someone adds something like this. There is an appropriateness to use for it though, when you don't want to be upfront and direct. Like, you don't want to insinuate something that is incredibly negative when it's potentially inappropriate. That's a way to soften what you believe or what you think. Usually though, this kind of thing sounds more like the majority of how people make statements, and not necessarily for things that deal with validity. More like whenever you ask someone to express their thoughts and explain something that they say they know, this is the kind of vibe that I get most of the time. 社長、社長、君はどういう？思う。What is subordinate? Buka? Don't know what the which accent is. 時間が足りなくて間に合わないって感じですね。Not enough time and can't meet up or make it. Yeah, can't meet up, I feel. Okay. お母さん。どのくらい頭が痛いの？ When does your like, wait, how much does your head hurt? Right, and then 娘、とにかく頭 頭が痛い好きで、よくわかんないって感じ。Hmm. とにかく is what? Like, I'm not quite sure. Oh, just probably like when it just hurts too much, right? It just hurts too much. I don't know. I don't really know. Yoku, really? I don't really know. And then this is felt. I don't necessarily think it's, when I'm reading this, it's felt, not said, kind of thing. That's fair enough. I mean, it's literally feeling, so oftentimes this is subtextual. I almost feel like when I'm reading people's comments and talking to them, this is subtextual in English. Not I'm not sure about how Japanese works this in at the moment. I haven't really been paying attention. In English, I feel it's subtextual now, especially on the internet. You kind of default to this vibe first, and then using more assertive English, which is very difficult now, in my opinion, nowadays, because it's either yes or no. So you go from incredibly assertive to unnecessarily vague, which is kind of this thing. Maybe not as vague as omo. Omo is okay. Is a little less vague. At least that's the feeling I'm getting. And then in between we have maybe like te iu, which is like something is saying that. That's kind of my equivalent to English right now. When someone says nothing, like it's said or you think, then you default to kanji. It's a feeling. So if they don't say anything, they're vibing it. Basically, like, I think it's okay. That's the top one, right? I think it's okay. It's like they said this is bad. That's lower. And then it's okay. I feel, which is the lowest. But when they say it's okay, then it's the lowest confidence. It's okay. So whenever you ask someone like, hey, are you alright? Like, 大丈夫です, right? But not really. It's more like in English, it's like, I'm okay. Lowest confidence. And then it's like, well, I think it's okay. Or they say it's okay. In the middle. And then I think it's okay. That's extra effort to say I think it's okay. Because it's, at least in my opinion, it's implying that they thought about it. When you say it's okay, they didn't think about it. I think 9 out of 10 times the person didn't think about it. So whenever they say like, describing, hey, like I asked, how did your test go? It was okay. Probably lowest confidence. And then it's like, I think people said it was okay. That's a little bit more, because on the internet you confirm by the typical behavior is to confirm by using third person, trying to find some other way to confirm it, right? Confirm their suspicions, which is lower effort, but higher effort than the vague. And then I think it's okay. I think it went well. That would imply that they both looked at it from like more than one angle. Very parallelisms with Japanese. That's kind of how I'm trying to line these up in English. Right, like for example, it has a complicated vibe. It's complicated. no vibe. Is if someone says it's complicated, then they vibe the complication. I think it's complicated. Higher in confidence. People say it's complicated, or they say it's complicated in between. So it's complicated, lowest. They say it's complicated. I think it's complicated. Alright. Anyways, this one's neat. I'll have to listen for this. Enders are great. I think sentence enders are great to like pattern after hearing, because it's a natural end. Like having all your natural enders and your natural starters really help train the ear to figure out what the unit of thoughts are. And then particles, like particles that end phrases, or quote unquote end typical phrases, is great too. Then you know like an idea or like some sort of section is being done. That's how I'm approaching listening. Like if there's anything that is helpful, at least personally to me, is when I'm listening to someone speak, if I lose track of where they are, or like I lose track of the idea, it's good to know when to me, I use knowing when an idea starts again and an idea ends, or partial ideas are being stringed together. Kind of like that, this one, right? Oh wait, this one right here. Like, you're not gonna have punctuation, right? And this is presuming something. This is presuming that Japanese people do this, which I feel there is a perceptional bias on this. I feel that when Japanese people want to be well spoken in public, they do tend to pace themselves. And when they pace themselves, you see the natural breaks. So without having to see the comma, you can't see comma, right? But you can hear comma. And the hear comma are the pauses. Whenever someone speaks English, that is another presumption. People don't pause and breathe between ideas either. So this is making a big presumption that the people I'm listening to in Japanese, for example, whenever someone listens to like an easy listening thing, or someone who's trying to speak deliberately and clearly, you can hear the sections, even if it's one sentence. Like this is just one statement. However, the commas are there for like reading purposes, in my opinion. However, when you listen to it, you'll hear their natural pauses in these areas. In fact, I kind of added a few more pauses when I was reading, because I'm grouping these phrases, right? Like, 会社に、についたら、right? 会社に着いたらもう、right? Like, or 会社に着いたら, and then we go with mo and so on. In case the thing is too long for me to process. So I tend to end wherever their particles are and then start to build up from there. I feel that English can be treated very similarly. In fact, possibly even more often. However, that's not what I come to experience when reading and speaking to people, considering that the major mode of conversation nowadays is written, right? Typed out. Clauses and whatnot are void of punctuation, obviously. And because of a void of punctuation, speaking goes in the same way. So whenever someone describes something, there's rarely a pause between different ideas, right? That was one sentence. However, the different clauses, there was a pause between the different clauses, naturally speaking. When you eventually speak to those individuals, they speak in run-on sentences, which may or may not be something jarring to someone. The messages are still clear. Generally speaking, though, if you spend 90% of your time typing in run-on sentences and run-on ideas, it often translates to the speaking. In fact, I think speaking becomes even more broken, like fragmented, if typing is already fragmented. I think the lesser of the skill output tends to suffer because of lack of practice, not because of lack of knowledge. So oftentimes whenever I get into a conversation with someone, they would say that it is difficult to express themselves, and specifically they're not necessarily talking about writing. However, if they do have problems expressing themselves in writing, then their speaking is substantially and noticeably more deficient than even that. So you get an idea of, it sounds like they're either never sure, they talk like they never know what's going on, right? Like they never know what's going on, and they rarely offer, they can't subtextually read or subtextually interact without being overwhelmed by the act of simply speaking, which I feel is going to be a very relatable experience when most people learn a target language and they speak with someone who speaks that language for the first time. Personally, whoever I'm speaking to, they can, whatever their opinions about me are, I rarely feel that nervousness, in my opinion, on trying to speak a target language, because whether or not you're able to speak the target language, you have to start somewhere. And without speaking often, especially even in English, you do not normalize the skills necessary to learn from that nervousness. I'm not saying I'm never nervous. I am nervous, but I don't allow that nervousness to control my inability, or maybe my lack of finesse to speak a target language. It's through understanding that you can eventually learn through speaking how to speak better, or speak to your desire, basically, and some other person's desire. It's pretty noticeable. I am very curious in the future how much demand there will be for like speaking coaches and interpersonal relationship communication skills and whatnot. Learning this stuff is cool. It doesn't necessarily communicate the feel of things as much. In my opinion, it's easier to remember if you actually do some of these or notice some of these things. At least that's what I believe is happening. It's a lot easier to remember these types of notes and whatnot because I understand in the nuance of another language, English, how this happens. Alright. Mieru. Okay, so now we have our ni particle with mieru, which is to seem. Oh, I wonder how this lines up with mitai. Or interesting. So we got yo. Okay, so we're using yo. Oh. And so. Huh. Oh, and we have a mitai. You can also mitai. Nimieru, primarily written only in hiragana, is a phrase that combines the case marking particle ni, right, sure, with the ru verb mieru, to appear or to be visible. This construction is regularly used with nouns. Okay. To show that something appears to be a battle in line, but it may also be partnered with the auxiliary verb yoda or solda, right, to elicit confidence. So yoda would be more confident than solda. in their adverbial forms, yoni and soni, to add a level of uncertainty. Okay, in these cases, it sounds closer to seems, to seem to be a in English. Okay, that makes sense. The yo and the so adding certainty. Okay, now where does the mitai come in?
あの雲はアイスクリームに見える。
Okay.
サムの泳ぎ方は溺れているように見える。
Oborete, oboreteiru, drown? Oh. Obo, I'm not sure if I have obo. That's new. Samu no yogi kata wa oboreteiru yo ni mieru.
サムの泳ぎ方は溺れているように見える。 サムの泳ぎ方は溺れているように見える。
Okay.
寒そうに見えるけど大丈夫？
寒そうに見えるけど大丈夫? Okay.
あの仕事は大変そうに見える。
Okay.
一人で暗いところにいると何でも顔のように見える。
Interesting. That is like conceptually difficult to understand. 一人で辛いところにいると何でも顔のように見える. Like, it was hard to understand what it was like when I don't, in English I would not hear this very often. Like, everything looks like a face. I'm like, what? As with many other Yoda structure, mitai may be used instead. Okay, so you can just straight, I see. This creates the expression mitai ni mieru. While this appears confusing at first, it just means to look like something that could be a, okay, in this way it reinforces the guess that the speaker is making. But how does mitai, interesting. I like how the grammar is folding on itself. So, like, the N5 concepts and then like the early N4 concepts, now they're like combining to each other. So it feels like you can already make these assertions. Like, when you're reading, if you combine and see how they interact, they make sense that they interact. So whenever like I see this beginning, I'm like, okay. And then I see these like construction rules. I'm like, oh, okay. I see what you can kind of already know what they mean or what they're going to go for. And even then I would consistently question, it's like, well, can't you switch this with that? Mitai would be the first thing I thought about the moment I saw mieru.
このコートを着ると太ったみたいに見えるから嫌いだ。
In grammar structure like this, kanji will very rarely be used. Yeah. And at first, if you're like studying kanji only, right? Like, if you're kanji forward, this stuff is nightmarish. But then with grammar, it really fills in. So like, kono, that's fine, right? Kono koto, that's fine. Kono koto wo, that's fine too, right? Karu, and then kiru. Kiru then breaks up this phrase. So you have this kiruto, right? Kiruto, and then futa is good. Then you have mitai, and then mitai ni mieru, mieru kara. So this part then becomes very complicated to see because there's three things going on there, but they all blend together because if you're kanji forward, you don't see it. So mitai would have the mi kanji, and mieru will also have the mi kanji. And if you put them in there, then you can see the breakup where the particles are, and then you know that mitai is mitai, and then ni is a particle, and then mieru, and then kara is the other particle. But when they write it in like kana, that has been for a while a growing pain of mine, largely because I didn't really put too much into grammar. Now it's really fun to be able to, it's like a breath of fresh air to be able to see where the ideas naturally end, where the ideas go, where the relationships are, because that's kind of how I construct English sentences too. Whenever I'm typing or professionally writing or writing in some capacity in English, I usually think about the construction of my sentences in this similar way. Like, all right, I'm typing, like it seems, right? It seems to look like I got fat when I wear this coat. So I don't like it. Like, it seems, and then to look like is another clause. I got fat, another clause. When I wear this coat, another clause. And so I don't like it, right? So in English, I still construct very similarly in the way that Japanese do. However, my thing that I really enjoy about Japanese is because, and I've said this since the beginning, is that particles exist. Ni and kara and kono and wo, all of these things mark their relationships. In English, you can kind of have them, sort of. It's kind of a blend. I often thought of English as a blend of pretty much everything, largely because of who uses English, like around the world. So it's often like, it's a blend, to me, it's a blend of Chinese and Japanese, where it seems, the word itself contains the particle. So how does it seem to look like, right? Like also has a particle in it. And then I got fat, and then when is a particle. And so all of these things, they're not necessary, but you're wondering like, okay, well, they're not particles. It's like, no, they're not. I get that they're not particles. The idea is you're trying to imagine how does Japanese, and how can English feel like Japanese and Japanese feel like English? At least that's the connection I'm making. So when I make those connections, it flows a lot better. Now when I read Japanese sentences, it feels like I'm simultaneously reading an English sentence. And then the feeling, at least in my opinion, comes a little bit more natural. Oh, interesting. In grammar structures like this, kanji will rarely be used. This is primarily because it will change the way a native speaker perceives the meaning. Yeah. Many grammar structures are written purely in hiragana, specifically to express that they are a set construction. Yeah. So, and being able to, that's why I said earlier that it feels like you need grammar in order to read the hiragana phrases, like the long hiragana phrases, because they are set constructions. And because they are set constructions, studying kanji will not get you to it. However, I do like that Bunpro's vocabulary list. That's something that I've come to appreciate about Bunpro's vocabulary list. We already gone through, like, James kind of chime in and said, like, well, there's no set, like, JLPT list for vocabulary. In fact, I actually think that's kind of a boon, because Bunpro's approach to logging vocabulary, they log a lot of these set phrases with or without kanji. So like kana and kanji, compound phrases. In fact, a lot of times they would put in the kanji even though there's a note that they are usually written kana alone. So that gives away that they are grammar constructs. So whenever the vocabulary comes up, most of them are phrasic. They are in phrases or set construction in hiragana, but they added the kanji version just because, or when it comes up hiragana, I can look at the kanji reference because they have the jisho entry from that, and both ways. So whenever I allude to this, because in wanikani, whenever people use wanikani, they would talk about like, oh, why did you guys put vocabulary, like purely hiragana phrases in the vocabulary section when this is a tool about kanji? It's like, yeah, I get it. However, in the end of the day, you're going to have to know all of it, at least in my opinion, or at least most of the ones that they include. To some extent, the end of wanikani is a little weird, but for this, you're gonna have to flip back and forth regardless. And if you're writing this, which honestly, I'm kind of curious. When people type, you still have to decide when you're typing. You have to decide whether you use hiragana or kanji. So I'm actually kind of curious if when people start typing, they just simply enter things. Because when I'm reading some of the phrases, I already have that I'm already starting to see the differences, where if you when I'm reading text, like Japanese text, things flow without me pausing on certain things, like hiragana, like this part, like as my grammar improves. However, when someone is learning Japanese and they think, they're fairly confident, and then they start typing, there are places where kanji is inserted, and I'm like, I don't understand what you mean by this. And that deals with this, where if you insert a kanji here, right? If you insert kanji here, which is not specifically for this grammar, but for other examples, where someone would simply use their keyboards and type and then just autocomplete, right? Like, oh, just hit space, you'll fill in the kanji on its own. But the keyboard entry doesn't filter for when and where it's commonly using kanji. So whenever I read someone's phrase, when they copy paste something or auto translate something, I read it and it takes me a while to read it, because a lot of times I don't know what the nuance is. Sometimes they would have kanji where I don't typically think there is kanji, or do they mean something else because they decided to put the kanji there, which is very similar. This is the feeling that I get as I'm learning more and more grammar points and filling in the sentences that I typically read. Now, the sentences that I read from other people learning Japanese is a whole different story. Like, you can now tell, at least in my opinion, I'm starting to be able to tell who is learning Japanese versus who is they're still learning Japanese, but different degrees of learning. Like, where are they? I can tell specifically who hasn't learned grammar, or not interested in grammar, or someone who hasn't written or written Japanese as much as they were trying to listen, or they read a lot of Japanese but have not taken into account the writing grammar. And choosing when to use kanji and hiragana is part of the grammar. Which is really neat in my opinion. It adds an extra layer of depth. I can already hear a bunch of people, to their chagrin, it's like, well, why is it necessary to do that? Like, you could just do this and simplify things. It's like, yeah, in the era of the internet, everything should be simplified. It should be easy. It should be intuitive and all context based, right? So that's fair enough. Like, kind of saying pitch accent, right? And all the others. For me, with or without it, obviously, I have to get used to figuring out what is implied when someone constantly auto completes their kanji and hiragana, just as much as I would read someone's English sentence and the subordinate clauses are all over the place. Like, when someone goes to write something, when I read their writing, it is all over the place. And it sounds like they're speaking their writing, which in English, much like Japanese, is very different. I mean, I'm still like struggling with the sonkeigo and, you know, kenjugo, tenjugo. So I'm still struggling with like the teigos, right? Like the different speeches. But then there's literary writing, and in English, it's pretty abrupt how when someone tries to write something creative, or they try to sound artistic or like kind of sophisticated, they're deliberately trying to be sophisticated. It becomes like as though they're trying to talk through their writing, and it feels like nothing, like rarely any of it makes sense, at least to someone who's reading it. So it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why did you write 3 questions in a row attached with the conjunction? Are you saying that it's any of these 3 or one of these 3? Is this rhetoric? You didn't set up the rhetoric. That kind of thing. So you can definitely tell when writing is seen as the way they vibe in typing. And it occurs very often. Hence why it's kind of interesting to think that people who like spend most of their time speaking and typing, there's a chance that they would have writers and editors that help them convey their ideas in writing. You could make an argument, well, if everyone writes like that, if everyone speaks and have the same deficiency, doesn't it make it so that when you publish a book, right, and you write like everyone speaks, wouldn't it be easier to read? I haven't really tested that. Like, for example, if I got a book, right, and it was produced, let's say it was written by someone of the new generation, like a teenager, right, writing a book, and then we had 2 different groups. We had an older group and a younger group read the book and try to ascertain what the author was trying to say. Did it take longer or harder, like overall, like is there like some sort of comprehension barrier despite different levels of education, right? I haven't really thought about that, because in speaking that does happen, where you could have 2 people talking to each other freely in a way that is quite like incomprehensible to me. Like, there are many times when someone would try to explain something to me, and the way they use English had some presumptions that someone their age would understand, like their line of thinking would understand, and I would not be able to understand it. I would have so many questions, like, I don't understand how you said this but mean this, and how are they related? Like, there's no precedence in the English to convey that. Such a weird intersection right now. And yes, it is very, very, at least in my opinion, easy to tell if I get a chance to speak to someone for maybe like a week or 2, maybe 2 or 3 times, and then see them publish something, if they're using some aided tool to compensate for their writing. Because there's a huge gap between there's a correlated gap between their writing skills and their speaking skills. And usually when someone suddenly starts writing in complete sentences and subordinate clauses, I get skeptical. Obviously, that doesn't mean you can't do that. Like, those people don't exist where they have trouble speaking, but they can write incredibly well, or they can write incredibly well, but speak with problem. That does exist, of course. However, statistically likely that they go in the same direction. It's rarely ever at opposite ends, where someone is an incredible writer and yet they have an inability to convey in speech. We're not talking about nervousness and tone and whatnot. We're talking about conveying using the linguistic aspect of bringing words together to explain something. Usually, in fact, someone who writes really well, they might actually speak very mechanical. They might be a very mechanical speaker. So not talking about like prosodic stress or anything like that, where like feelings and pausing and stuff. We're talking about the actual language. When you're terrible at explaining things, it translates to both speech and writing, in my opinion, because the ideas that they're trying to string together are still one and the same. They are closer, in fact, which is ironic. It's a little bit paradoxical because when someone is good at writing and speaking, they actually do deliberately do two things. People who are able to speak well, also when they write well, they actually write in two different. They typically write deliberately and intentionally different from the way they speak, because speaking requires some nuance that differentiates it from writing. When you see in amateur, at least, someone who doesn't like writing, right, who doesn't like speaking, their writing and speaking are really close together, and then the requirement for writing is a bigger gap than speaking. So what I mean by that is most people feel complacent that if they type a lot, it somehow makes them a better writer. That's not true. It actually leads to a false sense of security. Oh, I type a lot, so therefore I'm a good writer. No, in fact, it makes it so that is a misconception that creates that overconfidence. Like, well, I guess I type a lot, so I must be good at writing. And then you submit a piece of writing, and people can still read without writing well. We've already covered that when it comes to learning a language. You can easily be very good at reading and listening and still be poor at writing and speaking. Inputs and outputs are not coupled together in such a strong way that it immediately translates. So then it's also true when your audience, right? When someone is trying to put out something, which most people will encounter this. Younger people would eventually get a job, right? Or have a profession, I would say. Have a profession, and they have to output something. They have to create something. And then when they create something, if you're speaking and writing, and you're overconfident about it, like, oh, I type a lot, so I write something. So they put it out, and then they get railroad by like, dude, your writing sucks. Like, your writing doesn't make any sense. Why is it so terrible? And then, you go to school, and a school grades you and say like, you suck at, you're below average at writing. It's like, but I always thought my English is very, very good. That's not to say that other people don't have the same deficiency. Is that reading is far more, input is far more dominant over output. So people don't write things anymore. They don't create and express their opinion through collective understanding of composition. They read a lot. So you can read all the English you want. You can read all the chats, all the YouTube comments you want. If you don't make any of those comments, you don't write any of those comments, you don't get any better at those comments. Here's a hot take. There are people who write a lot of comments, but they write the same comments. They rarely explore and practice writing comments. They write the same things over and over again. So output is both subjected to redundancy as well. You know, much like input, if you keep reading the same material over and over again, then there's no learning. Output is if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, then there's no output improvement as well, or change. It doesn't have to be an improvement, it could be worse. So there are no changes when your output is exactly identical. With one asterisk, you can get practice effects, right? Efficiency does go up if you're doing the same exact thing. So there is that for output. I think it's overrepresented. Typically, that's what memory does. Memory is the most overrepresented technique or intuitive or vibe that people get that they think improves. When you repeat something the same over and over again, your retention goes up. It doesn't really go up, in my opinion. It is maintained. So, like, you know, when you're trying to remember something, right? And you just repeat the same thing. This is why output, in my opinion, is misunderstood. If you repeat the same thing, it retains itself across the board. Like when there's an exposure here, and then you're just practicing. That's retention. That's a maintenance. Does the retention go up? It kind of just peaks, right? If you're relying on repetition and memory, it stops. It stops pretty rapidly. So no matter what, you're going to have to maintain it. Now you can try to increase the value of your output by changing something about it, like reinforcing it with other things, right? Like association. That's how you bolster your retention. So your retention, let's just say your retention efficiency goes up when you're not simply doing the same thing. That's the study of output. Not that is all that attractive. I think this working on your outputs and working on how to maximize your outputs is very underrepresented right now. It's not, I'm not saying it's the most important thing, because if it was overrepresented, I would be saying the opposite. Input is underrepresented. Right now, input is overrepresented. And that's, in my opinion, why speaking and writing are incredibly deficient, or they're incredibly efficient. Remember that deficient is not the opposite of efficient in this case. In the case I'm using, deficient is saying below like scope. So I'm talking about the scope that is deficient. So writing and speaking is deficient in its scope, as in you can only write one type of thing. You're very largely restricted, right? I think the word I guess I would use instead of deficient would be restrictions. Writing output is very restricted. Input is very efficient. And because input is so efficient, it actually leads to a restrictive output. So like how people study is incredibly restrictive. It's so restrictive that when someone goes look for efficiency, it becomes even more restrictive. So like when you look at a study, right, when you're trying to look for study, you're like, oh, I know how to study, or I know how to input, right? And then you go look for it. So that means you're already restricted immediately, right? And it doesn't help, in my opinion, that tools online feed into that restrictedness, because tools are targeted to you. So now you are only restricted to your own deficiencies. You are deficient in studying and learning, as in deficient in scope. You know, highly restricted studying strategies. And therefore, then the tools that target that should be efficient. Notice where this is going, right? I hear this word a lot. Oh, what is an efficient way to learn? The most restricted way you have learned to learn. The most efficient tool is the tool that targets your restricted studying strategies. Whether it helps you learn a content, that's irrelevant. It will still be efficient. So what is the most efficient way to study a target language? Memorization. And what is the most, when someone asks me, so what is the most efficient way I learn to study? It's not memorization. Memorization is the bottom line. To me personally, and here's a hot take, it's the cheapest form of retention, let alone learning. It's the cheapest form of retention, and it requires a 1-to-1 time. So to me, it's actually inefficient, because I don't train this either. I don't train this 100%. So the people who are more efficient and restricted to memorization, they probably have better memory than I do, quote unquote, better memory than I do. They're more practiced in it as well. So regardless of genetics, right? Regardless of genetics, on average, a person who practices memorizing will have better efficient memorization strategies. However, it pales in comparison to someone who memorizes, analyzes, and creates. Because now you're talking about three things, and one of them gets a really high limitation. Memorization gets limited very quickly. So then you double dip into analyses, which is still very difficult to reach a limit. And then when you combine creation, there's another limit. Instead of limiting yourself to one with diminished return, you can have 3 skills. And that's kind of where the balance is. It's kind of like you're taking 80 or 90% of all 3 skills. That is way greater than trying to get 99% efficiency on one of the skills, especially when they are combined naturally. Or at least I think these 3 things are naturally combined. Unfortunately, in my opinion, or at least to my disappointment, it's rarely these. When I interact with someone, they often say, what's the point of sitting here analyzing this? What's the point of sitting here creating something if you don't know how to create it correctly in the first place? Right? Like, I don't have to create something. I can simply memorize something and be correct. Well, yeah, you can. That involves not analyzing anything or not creating anything. So then when someone asks, hey, whenever I speak, I have trouble speaking. It's like, yeah, well, you didn't create anything before. Like, but I know what the right things are. Like, yeah, when they're triggered and memorized, and then someone's like, well, English is like, I don't get this. I don't understand how I could get the feeling of Japanese. It's like, well, you don't analyze anything. So how do you know the connection in the first place? Right? That's where analysis comes in. the connection between what you know and what you're learning. If you don't make connections, then yes, it's down to memorization. So that fake it until you make it thing, right? That fake it until you make it is the key to someone who memorized. Now, that's still possible. You can still go through a period of dissociation if you want. Like, you can spend a majority of your time trying to dissociate yourself from your English or dissociate yourself from your Western culture in order to associate and assimilate, right? Associate, well, not even associate, just specifically assimilating a abstraction until it feels natural. That is definitely a way to go about it. Rarely do I ever do that, so I associate. Right. I associate before assimilating. In fact, sometimes I associate and decide to compartmentalize. I mean, I don't typically compartmentalize, but sometimes you can. So when you associate, you can still compartmentalize and assimilate, or you can integrate. These are all different words, but I doubt it might be a little bit esoteric here. Like, what's the difference between integrating, assimilating, and compartmentalizing? Compartmentalizing is to keep it separate, which is the ideal case for internet goers. You keep English separate from English separate from Japanese. Assimilate is to replace. So when you keep English away from Japanese as long as possible, then you replace it with Japanese. That's assimilation. Yeah, integration is when you combine them. So you take the parts of Japanese and you combine them with the parts of whatever currently exists. I typically integrate as opposed to assimilate, which means that to other people who don't desire this, I will forever be a foreigner. Well, technically, unironically, you are always going to be a foreigner if you're not born Japanese, right? So take that with a grain of salt. And then compartmentalization is the other way. So usually it's these techniques that lead to, I'm going to say, lead to poor retention. However, or like maybe we'll say high effort retention, or the perception of high effort retention, which is the idea of trying to abandon whatever you know in order to live and immerse in whatever you want to learn, as opposed to forming the connections between what you know exist, like for you, like all your concepts already, and then do that. I don't. Not that often. There are situations, like I talked about code switching. If you code switch, probably compartmentalization, right? I do code switching on a regular basis. I don't sound like this all the time when I stream. At the very moment, right now what I'm doing at this moment, I code swapped, and then I'm just gonna switch back to my typical how I consume content situation. Right. Anyways, I thought I'd add something today. Okay, so seems. I think that's okay. Let's look at all the notes. So Yoda was the pretty certain, right? It seems, appears to be, but very certain, so it can be added in a way. This focus, let's see, Mieru focuses specific on visual appearance, I suppose, and then Yoda talks about the it's still kind of based on visual, but I guess it can include various cues. That's fair. That's a fair contrast. Kasuru. To give off. This was recent-ish. Both describe sensation, but different usage. Ga suru is used with sensory words. Oh, that particular grammar point. So, I guess the more specificity. Oh, okay. It can also be figurative in a sense, not that it has to visually resemble. Okay, that's fair. So that's part of the low certainty. General impression doesn't necessarily rely on visual cues, right? And then we have the solni and solna. Right? Same deal. Dashi. Interesting. How does this work? Dashi implies hearsay, right? In contrast, oh yeah, there's direct visual observation versus hearsay. No yoni and no yona. Oh, this is a comparison. Comparison versus specifically to whatever the visual thing is. This is also true for yoni, yona, for certainty. And it expresses like the similarities of something as opposed to based on what its visual cue or something. Let's see. Follows the plain form of a. They both describe similarities in appearance but different usage. This follows the plain form of a verb or adjective that express general similarities, right? Oh, the difference between following a noun or non-adjective. That's interesting. It means look like. The two can be used together, right? We know that. They didn't talk about... Did they? Is there a non-adjective example? I don't recall seeing a non-adjective example. No. No non-adjective. But what do you do? You drop the E in E adjectives. Verbs looks like they use the plain form, I guess. Oh no, wait. They just use the verb in any form. Yeah, any form. No, hang on. I only see this one, which is the plain form. Oh, that's gonna be rough. I think this one's gonna be rough. Outside of using nouns. Okay. Very complicated. The second one's fine, and the first one's. Formal conjunctive expected. So like try another way of conjugating the structure. Because of the phrase, right? Because of the phrase. No kumori. Kumo. Sorry. Kumo. Net. Netsu. Net. って感じ 彼は、忙しそう。
彼は忙しそうに見える。
Alright. Should I do some grammar points today before going into our Hanzi Hero stuff? Today is an important Hanzi Heroes day. Let's do some of the grammar points. Like 50 or so, maybe. Okay. いてる。あ、はい。入っている。水を誰も食べないから。I think I will eat. Maybe like 食べて思う。I think I'll eat. Maybe 食べろ。食べを。No, 食べようと思う。Yeah. Or 食べようと思う。I don't understand. 食べろと思う。How do I do the like the form, the yo form of 食べ? That was just yo. Or oh no. Yeah, isn't it? Ichiran is just yo. I guess that's not the structure. Phrase that express when someone thinks that they are resolved to do a. Oh wait, I think I misspelled. Oh.
冷蔵庫に入っているチーズを誰も食べないから食べようと思う。
I misspelled. I missed the oh. I keep typing. I keep skipping one of the. Oof. Nuku. As progressive. Like.抜いていった。Oh, just as. Whoops. Okay. Check my spelling. Oh.
服を脱いでいたところに母が部屋に入ってきた。
I did not read just as. Just as there. Speech. MAKU できる。 うまくできる。Go well. できる。Oh, うまくできる。うまくできる。Contract. Whether or not 信じしている。No, 心配な、信じ、心配している。Worry. Contrastive. It's not whether or not. If it's some sort of if, butがかどうか。Oops.
スピーチがうまくできるかどうか心配している。
できるかどうか、できるかどうか、愛している。What is that? A sentence ending paragraph used when asking for detail, information, or reason. No? That's probably no. Oh yeah, and then noun. 彼女は静かな人なの？あまり No. Not only but also. うちの方が Oh, that's a different speech. しべれる。No, しゃべれる。More polite, possibly. I don't remember しゃべ。Not only. So we do double negative. Mole in this case is negative. Not only. Or not double. This is negative. It's not. It's probably docket. It has to be a docket. Dakete, maybe dakete naku or something. Dakete naku?
私だけでなく、私の友達も日本語が喋れる。
Right, not only. And then mo is but also. So this is positive, this is negative. Shimashou. 予約に間に合う予約合う try しましょう。Attempting to do something in the manner of A. I was gonna just throw in して or no しましょう is how to try. Is it like yoni? A phrase that expresses attempting to do something in the manner. I still only have sudo. So it's volitional. To some extent. Oh, it could be the Miru thing. Yeah, it could be the Miru thing. I only got Yoni. Maybe it's just Yoni shimashou. Okay.
予約に間に合うようにしましょ
This is kind of actually quite man. Yo is like I almost feel like Yo is like the Yo and Soul are everything. So it's Yoni Suru, so let's try to. And then this is using is it volitional? Shimashou. Gradually? Wait, I wonder if they take JoJo. Sorry, that's from Wanikani. We haven't learned JoJo yet. Could you try a grammar thing that's more casual? JoJo is not casual, huh? Interesting. The only reason I remember JoJo is because of JoJo Adventure, you know, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but Wanikani introduced JoJo as in like gently, slowly. That was one of vocabulary today. And I was like, huh, I wonder if that works. And it looks like it has some sort of politeness difference. Then Dan
近所の人が話している。ともちゃんは最近だんだん大きくなっているでしょ
really went for it. Right, looks like, but I might be late to the movies. Seki ga aru. And this is hoping for someone else and for someone else's sake with the ne and which hope. How do we express hope? Like thoughts? No, it's yi. So tohi tohi. Do I need something from that? I don't think so.
映画に遅れそうだけど席があるといいね。
席があると。髪の毛髪の毛が3分 No, 2分 No, 3分3分 No more than No, I did. Is that implied? Are they doing that just to tell me it's implied? So no more than, like, if I add no more than vanilla. Oh no, wait. Yeah, right? Because that's there's a counter. Shinai? Shinai. Or is it? I think I addあえていりないあいいらない phrase that shows only exists. Okay. You definitely take the number and then take the verb. Do the nai form. So is that not nai? Why do I want to say ire? Nai. Nai, maybe I'm screwing this up. Whoops. I nai.
髪の毛が3本しか生えていない。
I'm still not quite sure about iru and aru. Still a little rusty on iru. 子供の頃、スポーツを play. I'm guessing we're looking for sonkeigo replacement for suru. And which one was that? Itasu? What is the sonkeigo for? I think. It can't be suru. Or can it? Oh no, nasaru. No, wait, yeah, nasaru. Nasaru is what we're... As progressive standard. Oh no. Like... Nasa... I'm gonna treat it like a ru. So nasata. No, nasate. Nasate. Nasate i. Nasate ita. Itan desu ne. Desu ne. Okay. It can't just be like, oh shit, or like, we try nasate. Okay.
子供の頃スポーツをなさっていたんですね。
Nasatte itan desu ne. So nasaru is go done. Is go done, not ichidan. Alright, so at least I recognize that immediately. Gotta remember that whenever I'm thinking of sonkeigo and like the difference between like all the keigos, right, the trifecta keigos, I'm thinking of like replacements. And like if I know what I can do in like tenego or like casual, I can try to figure out what their counterparts are in order to substitute, because that's what I'm thinking of. 東京では many たくさんの OK たくさんの写真を撮りましたか大阪では写真をたくさん撮りませんでした。たくさん。
東京ではたくさん写真を撮りましたが、大阪では写真をたくさん撮りませんでした。
Okay. Oceanic, 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 いいけど Wait. Oh no, oboe. Sorry, oboe to remember. Okay, oboe and then ni? Ni? Nikui? Oh, difficult, yeah. So oboe stem nikui. Nikui kedo. Oh, okay, oboe nikui kedo. Oboe or oboe must. Oboe. Oboe te. Oh no. It depends on which one I'm trying to do. So, what is the new one for must? It uses ba. Or are we using id? We're not using. How do we? A formal hypothetical way to say that something must be a formal hypothetical. That's not switching. It's not switching. It's kind of like oh boy, and double negative. So oh. Na kereba oboe na kereba ikenai. Oh no, I don't know how to conjugate. Wait, edu. Edu can't be treated as. I thought edu and edu. Okay, hold on. Oh no, oh boy, I keep writing no. Oh boy. Oh, they want negative? Wait. I must remember. Oh, but polite. Oh, okay. No, it's fine. I kept writing no boy, oh boy, oh boy. So oh boy at night, right? Oh boy at not. So oh boy na kereba ikenai or ikemasen because of the.
覚えにくいけど覚えなければいけません。
It's fine. Spelling problem. So it was a need. これは僕 No? What is it? Relative clause subject? Say what? A case marking particle used when the particle ga has already been used. Right, no? You want to soften the tone, right? Okay, でかける oh no, precise time frame. 時
出かけるときは行ってきますと言います。
アメリカンに 帰る。帰る前、帰る前に、円、ドルに change. In advance. In advance. Maybe like, 帰って直す. I think it's 直. So maybe wait, yeah. Oh no, oku. It's oku, not naosu. Naosu is redo. So 帰っておく.
アメリカに帰る前に円をドルに変えておく。
クリスマス犬を買う. I thought it would use a different 買う. That's an interesting 買う. Have someone buy me. Shit. Oh, my. Yeah, okay, I see where the my is coming from. The shiranai thing. Almost shiranai. That's a weak one. This whole phrase, this construct. So buy for me. And it's someone else. So maybe moralu, right? So what? 買ってもらう.
クリスマスに犬を買ってもらうかもしれない。
Oh, I just man. Like so wait, that much. So like like to that extent, was it like, oh no, sonnani or something? It's a sonnani.
そんなに日本に行きたいなら行ってきたら？
ここから見る if, oh goodness, 富士山が全部見えない if which if you look from here you can't see. Okay, so okay, so we have the verb and it's in the plain form of the verb. So can I use temo? Temo requires the verb to be conjugated in the case, so no temo. So we can't use mo. Out of the question. There's no wondering because there's a follow-up clause. Can't use ba because I would need the verb. So the only thing I can think about is to. It's gotta be to.
ここから見ると富士山が全然見えない。
And I have already forgot. Okay, so I do need a da for adjective and noun. And it's stronger than... Yeah, so I went through all of these. I went through ba, nara, and tara are the other options as well. And ba lines up with... And then I ruled out temo as well, which I'm still not quite sure when that is used. Tara expresses both if and when and can describe hypothetical one-time events. That could have worked. Oh, wait, but Tada would require... No. Yeah, they're both conditional. And then Nada would be another one too. O is for habitual. I guess that is expected or an automatic result. Oh, okay, that's what makes it stronger than Tada. Tada is a one-time or assumed situation, implies believe is condition. Or Nada. But both with Tada. I forgot how Tada and Nada differ from each other now. Haiwa is in the beginning. Something that happens habitually as a result. Haiwa, wait. What's Haiwa? What are they? Haiwa is used for more situational instruction. And then we have the ba and to, but they differ. Okay, ba emphasizes the condition that leads to a result. It's also mechanically different as well. Dang, these are gonna be tough. They're so tough. どうぞ食べてください。で I want to say I want you to say
「どうぞ食べてください」って言ってほしい。
文法ね。文法の say what? 問題ね。No. 間違い。Oh no, yeah, mistake. 間違い。間違いをcontinue to fix, like 直して yeah 直してする It says continue. How do I combine it with continue? I kind of thought I combined it with tsukeru. Oh no, I 直して続ける I don't know how to attach. Wait. I don't know how to attach now. Maybe it's just now. Get it. Oh, maybe I do like I don't know. Okay, so Keru would, it's probably an Ichidan. And then I'm not sure how to attach. I'm pretty sure it's the stem. And now she to get it.
文法の間違いを直し続けてみたらどうだ？
Alright. It's fine. そういう Oh yeah, that's just saying that そういうことをor just wait. I guess I forgot how そういう works in this. そういうことを言ってくれる just by だけ? Oh wait, yeah. I need the by means
そういう
just
こ
by.
とを言ってくれるだけで君は優しいとわかる。
Can I hear that?
そういうことを言ってくれるだけで君は優しいとわかる。
約束を sorry for breaking. Oh, what? すみません。Okay. Oh wait. Non-past polite. My phrase that emphasized that's apologetic for doing. I thought we just add sumimasen to it. Yeah. Or am I? Oh, yaburu. Oh, yaburu. I read breaking and I just thought of kawaru. Yaburu. I actually don't know yaburu. That does mean break though. That character does mean break. Yabu. Alright. Okay, so then it would be yabutte sumimasen.
約束を破ってすみません。
すぐ冷房をつけてくれない。Oh no. It's it's not, okay, so this is very specific and it's probably not going to necessarily come up too often or in my context. What is it? What is the, I wonder, like, kashira, right?
すぐ冷房をつけてくれないかしら。
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 つけてくれないかしら。子供ら。No, the pluralization. 子供らがor is that 踊るは怖がらない怖がらない West. I imagine this deals with this in such a way, so definitely Yoni you. Oh wait, this works, but you can express a request. But can you express a request? Wait, this works, but I request. The heck? What? a slightly formal way to state that something is said or requested. I don't understand what that's saying. Oh, I can change the ending. You is not you. In order maybe? Or request. A request, what is request? Uses gun. Tanomuyo.
子供らが怖がらないように頼むよ。
Alright. And then what was the other one? Order. There were 3 words that I needed to know. Tanomu and meijiru. Okay, I see what they mean. Time is it? Kimitachi. Wait. Kimitachi. Oh. Kimitachi ga ita kara. Ga ita kara. Koko. As far as Urareta. Made ni. Oh, it's just made. I don't need.
君たちがいたからここまで来られた。
このプレゼントをお母さんに渡す。Please. 渡してください。Different grammar structure. What type of grammar structure is this? A request. Do I just say I touched it? More polite? Oh yeah, I had this problem yesterday, right? We could do something like arimasen. I put des, but it was something else. Can I figure out what the something else is? It's not humble speech. We don't have to do humble speech for this. I don't know what the phrase is. Is it like ageru? Yeah, it's ageru. So it's probably just ageru. Check the tense. Please hand over. Oh, agete.
このプレゼントをお父さんに渡してあげてください。
Okay, agete or kudasai if it was more popular, more polite. Okay, I got you. Oboeru. Whoa. Oboeru saito. Saito ga takusan arimasu. Tatoeba. I don't know. I only have tatoeba wa nikani da. What other examples do I have, for example? There is another example. But we're gonna go probably tatoeba.
漢字を覚えるサイトがたくさんあります。例えば、ワニカニだ。
そんなに don't have to be angry. おる standard permit. don't have to be. Well, it's not saying don't be. So MOE would be like permissive, right? MOE. And then don't be angry. So okora nakute mo ii.
そんなに怒らなくてもいい。
Mo ii. I keep asking in a form of a question because I'm actually questioning whether that is correct or not. Ara. But that's the other if. I'm supposed to put something in front of Tada? Wait. There's something that comes coupled with Tada? What comes with Huh. I have no idea. Wait. Even further. Oh, no, wait. I think this is just, moshi. The moshi?
もし辛いものだったら食べられない。
もし辛いものだったら食べられない。られ next to each other is really rough for me. 食べられない。られない。どっち間 frequency. どっち間 at intervals. この願い Oh no, まずい。まずい。まずい薬を飲まなくては、いや、飲まなくてはいけない。At intervals. Yeah, every so interval. I don't think it's kaku. Or kurai. I guess we could use like some sort of aida. No. Doko ni. I mean, it could be no. Koto ni. No, goto ni.
5時間ごとにこのまずい薬を飲まなくてはいけない。
Similar. What? What? We are looking for a grammar point with a similar meaning that attaches to a noun after. Yeah, so I.
ハムスターのように口に食べ物を入れた。
Okay. Did you, あと、言っているでwhat is that? 力 No. 体 体 man. 何悪い悪いmean. Oh, it's kind of like using say. How do we do that? Like ということ。
砂糖がたくさん入っているって？体に悪いということ？
こちらは図書館健常oh it's Ken 健常語健常語 heck so what are we we're doing existence now, right? We're looking for to exist and 健常語 humble exist. Is this Itata? Itata Kiru? No, that's receiving. To be can be like no gozaimasu, so just I guess we use de since it's now, so like de gozaimasu.
こちらは図書館でございます。
De gozaimasu. De because of toshokan. Actually, I'm kind of curious, is it always de? Is it always there? We don't need. Wait, hold up. I think there was an explainer for this, right? It may also seem as is the base form of de plus verb. However, in modern Japanese, this is primarily strict to the somewhat quirky. Oh, okay. Okay. So this was the exception. This one's the exception. Oh no. Kenjogo using then okuru 品物はpolite will send. So Kenjogo requires oh no, Kenjogo is still humble. So itasu is to do, right? So to do sending, maybe we add itasu to okuru, like okuite itashimasu. Okay. Will send. Wait, hold up. Will send. So wait, unless I messed up. Okutte. No. Okite. I screwed up. Okite. Dashimasu. Okay. A very humble phrase that highlights your own action with those of your in-group. Okay. And Kenjogo is humble speech. Or is it... No, yeah. Humble speech. how do I He will send. It has to be Tasu. So how do I... We will send. That's still like non-pass. Oh wait. I think I need an honorific. Maybe it's like... Oh wait. Oh no. It's not Tay form. It needs an honorific, but it's the stem. The stem. So... Oh... Wait. Okuri. No, that's a... Yeah. Oki いたします。送り
品物は明日お送りいたします。
Dang, that's... Oh man, that's gonna be rough. This happened before. I thought it was a Tay form. Okay. Oh, wait. How would I know? So, Itasu is the humble, right? The humble form of Suru or something. So, if I think of it that way, that still doesn't help me. Oh, it kind of does. Actually, it kind of does. Yori wo... While I was cooking. What? 子供たちが入ってきた。While. How do I do while? Like in the middle of, so like no chu de, no ju de, no naka de. How do I do while doing that? It's probably something that deals with Aida or Naka. Go with shiteiru, progressive, right? Shiteiru Aida ni.
料理をしている間に子供たちが帰ってきた。
What are you? Oh, what is it? うつつきをしてから、right? No, 卒業してから仕事は探す concrete plan です。Assertive. So plan is 予定です。No? 予定だ。Oh, no, wait, that's 予定です。
卒業してから仕事を探す予定です。
予定です。引っ越しは、no, that's cool, right? Yeah, 引っ越しはお金が cost. Could I? Oh, wait, what is cost? It wasn't Suru. We don't do Suru, right? No Suru. Kakaru? Probably Kakaru. This is a Kakaru situation. Okay. 地図をよく多い or most of the time or well hypothetical. Look. If you look with hypothetical would be like いれば。
地図をよく見れば迷子にならないからよく見てね。
でね。Oh, this is 直す。私はいろいろと思って直す。Wait, is it not attached to 思wait. 思って直Do I not attach it to the A form? I'd probably attach it to the stem. Then probably rethink. Yeah, pretty sure it's no. Oh no, wait. It's no, yeah, no, omo. Maybe it's just omoi no.
私はいろいろと思い直すことが多い。
直すことが多い。I'm like, my Tay form is now becoming a crutch. 彼女の話は信じる cannot believe. Potential negative potential standard. So like 信じ oh no, is that a 信じられる check tense Beta. Wait, check tense. Negative standard potential. Let's check the tense. Oh.
彼女の話
It's
は信
negative.
じられない。
Yeah. Negative. 食べに conditional desire. I think this is just 行きたい what's the wait. Why is 行きたい? Oh no. If and when from when desire. Oh, and that's just implied, right? From when you want to go. It's conditional. If and when you want. Yeah, I think that's supposed to be implied. So. Oh no, maybe not. 行きたいたら check conjugation. Just たら just oh, we wanna wait. Past tense? Oh, right. Oh no, wait. 行きた Like tai is treated like a e adjective. Or something like that. Like this. Did you check your conjugation? I'm going further and further away. Wait. I thought it was like just atta, maybe. Oh, ka, not ta.
もし食べに行きたかったら行こ
I gotta remember that tai is can be treated as an e adjective.
就職の面接。彼はプログラミングを40代後半に学び始めましたが、スキルがあると思います。
各アカウントの名前はユニークである必要がある。
Oh goodness. In the case potential occasion Haiwa? Oh wait, I already have a hai. What? Oh no, bai.
う。遊んでいる場合は危ないことをしないで。
I heck? I guess you could just do like like
歩いて帰るつもりだよ。
seems like casual, subjective. Different grammar structure? How about a grammar structure that's most often heard in conversation? Confident yet somewhat casual expression to highlight the way something looks. Right.
彼はあの人が好きみたい。
彼女は私の気持ちを doesn't really 理解していないと思う。あまり
彼女は私の気持ちをあまり理解していないと思う。
理解していないと思う。正しい、正しい、watch, what is that? Oh no. Oh no! Okay, 時計を買いたい and so on. Contrastive. Emphasis on cause. Ga. Can you include oh right. Gaga. No ga. I don't know! Wait, what's after a e adjective? The heck? What comes after an e adjective? Contrasted emphasis on What? Oh, no, wait. No. Oh, is it like... It's probably like... desu ka? Or
新しい
no
時計
desu
を
ka?
買いたいのですが、
Desu ka? There's a lot of examples actually. It's probably like... dakedo... Yeah. dakedo... okay, they take... takeredo... takeredo... desu ka? Deskedo... Gosh. Alright. No desu ka? That's gonna be a problem. I don't know which ones. Toii no de kuruma de iku koto and only negative. Must? Is that why it's negative? So できて切ってできて only a phrase that highlights that one specific thing is all that exists. I was thinking maybe like, oh, maybe like できらないできないoh okay I thought it's like must. I was trying to use a must. Oh, is this this can't be like a Kiru specific thing. I don't think it's a Kiru specific thing. Is it? Maybe like a phrase that highlights that one specific thing is all that exists. What? Oh, maybe it's like shika dekiranai? Dekinai?
遠いので車で行くことしかできない。
東京にバスで Oh, have gone before. Wait. Polite, have gone before, have done in the past? Tokoro, wait. This is a no, it's ita koto ga arimasu. What? How do you past tense? Iku. Ita, no? たことがあります。Wait. Oh no, wait. Am I not? So, yeah.
東京にバスで行ったことがあります。
Okay. Alright, we're good. This 50 is good enough for me. So far, all the conditionals are probably easily one of the worst right now. Like any ifs. I think the Sonkeigo and the Kenjogo is kind of coming along. The ifs though, all the other conditional phrases are kind of okay. Yeah, it is so difficult to know which if and how if. We can't tell that much. The things we can read into are something like if it's a one-time event, if there's a causal relationship, if there are two phrases, what is the causal relationship between the two? Some of the keywords are kind of okay. And then looking at the mechanical tense, so like if there's a vocabulary, like if it's preceded by a noun or adjective, there are different ways to express conditionally based on that. And then there's sensory stuff and inference. So there's hearsay, senses, specific visuals, cause and effect, and then like conjugation, mechanical things. Eventually, I suppose after a while it's gonna become regular just to see them said that way. So you might get used to hearing the phrase over and over again. How much do I like that? I don't actually like that. I'm not a fan. It's probably the same reason why I'm not the biggest fan on memorizing things. So like in terms of vocabulary and kanji in general, I like to know why or like how it's constructed. So I think we're just gonna spend a lot more time explaining over and over again why it's this, why it's that, over and over again. Because I like the idea of constructing the idea of using it. So like why use, I don't know, mieba as opposed to phrasing it in a way that you would add like tada or nara in that situation, or even just do like te, like the te form to create a conditional, that kind of thing. I think that way will help me more construct things than to read something. Reading something is probably going, like if they provided me with a sentence, that's a different story. Like you read it, it's like, oh, okay, well, I understand what they're trying to say. The alternative is to not know why things are being constructed that way. It's hard, it's difficult to feel like I would prefer, like I rarely ever ask myself, oh, well, you know, I'll just memorize the sentence. It'll become normal because I hear the sentence so much. I think, again, my digression today, I stand by my words. When I say that if memory is the thing you're relying on through repetition, like, oh, I'm just going to input a bunch of times, like 100 times until it becomes normal and it sticks, that's the bottom line for me. And I rarely ever ask myself, oh yeah, this is going to buff out by hearing it a lot more. That sounds incredibly dissatisfying to me. It almost sounds, real talk for myself, it almost sounds highly improbable that's going to solve the problem. Like when someone says something like, oh no, don't worry about it. If you hear it enough, if you hear the conditional enough, you'll know where to put ara versus nara versus aba conjugation, and you'll figure those things out naturally by hearing it over and over again until it sticks. And my first thought is, wow, that is incredibly dissatisfying and uninteresting. Not that it won't lead to that, But my first thought is in addition. So I'll probably continue to do this very diligently, like learn about why these are the cases, see if I can find the context clues. However, obviously, I'll get used to hearing where Mitai and Soni and Yoni or Yoda, you know, like at the end, like Mitai, Sona versus Yoda, Yona, and how frequent stuff is just from repetition. I think anyone who is specifically doing that, in my opinion, if that is your baseline, retention is gonna be so tough, because the moment you stop is the moment you're just gonna not remember it anymore. Obviously, you can start to read books and manga and whatnot, and those will give you memorization, retention. Connecting them to why you remember it is a different story. So like when you read a manga, right? When you read a manga and see the construction of a grammar point that you just read, and then you think back to explaining it to yourself, that is analyses and comparison. If you're saying, oh, I remember this, and then try to remember that manga example, that's just another, to me, that's another exposure. It's not to understand the relationship between what you learned abstractly and the example you have. So that's like, in my opinion, here's an example. Someone, this is a typical what people tell me that helps them. Reading all these example sentences, right? You read these example sentences, you're like, oh, I understand it. Here's the example sentence. It's like, you're not explaining it to yourself why these example sentences make sense with the description above. Like, you're not going through the process of constructing it. So if you read a bunch of examples, that's still not going to help you with construction. You're not constructing it. So at minimum, you're trying to explain to yourself how this makes sense. Like, why does this illustrate, or how does this illustrate the above points? And when you're reading like manga, right, we're specifically focused on reading because this is a reading situation. If you're not spending your time, at least in my opinion, if you're not sitting there like being excited about, oh, now I can explain this sentence, that this is where I come in. Like, I incentivize myself. If I can't explain this to myself right now, like, oh, okay, well, this is a noun, smaho. All right, smaho is a katakana word, which is a, you know, adopted word in Japanese. And then this is the object marker for smaho, right? And then we have skaru. This is actually skaru, skau, which is conjugated into skawase, volitional, imperative, and renai, to make happen, and question. Wait. Right? Hold up. No, we use the potential. Yeah, and make happen. Potential form, question, te, connector, and then this is a potential, right? Potential of skau. Now, if you're not saying all of those things, then you haven't reproduced them. So like, for example, when I'm looking at this question, it's not saying those things. Like, literally looking at this does not tell you, like, there's nothing written here that say, oh, this is the noun, this is the direct object marker, or like object marker. This is the potential form of scout or to use, and here this is the, what do I even call this at the moment? Maybe I call this the, it's still a potential form, but potential form that is like a companion to morau, right? So, and then this is the question marker. However, this question marker is more like a it's kind of like a request now, as opposed to a question, like more leaning towards requests, that kind of thing. So if you're not reproducing those, then you won't remember, like you'll forget the grammar as well. Not that some people just don't care about grammar. So the idea is, if you're spending so much time learning the grammar points and you're saying like, I keep forgetting the grammar points, it's like, yeah, how often are you using the grammar points, right? Are you actively recalling the grammar points? Some people would say things like, well, I just want to speak and write, right? Japanese, for example. You just want to speak and write Japanese. Well, then you don't have to remember the grammar once you get used to it, right? Like, you don't have to explain the grammar. And if you don't explain the grammar, then you're not using the grammar. So the only time you'll remember the grammar is when you read this again. That's what the iteration is. The idea, in my opinion, is a lot of times when people do their steps, right? And then they realize they can do this naturally, they skip all the other steps. And then when they skip the other steps, then you don't need them anymore. Right? You don't need them. So whenever someone says something like, oh, you know, I can do this now because I did these things, it's like, well, you're not going to be able to explain these things since you don't do them anymore. And that's kind of one of the downsides of, or one of the word of caution when you get advice from someone who is has compartmentalized or efficiency, and they don't teach. Because for me, when someone compartmentalized for efficiency, they're learning and practice. It ends up like this. It sounds like this. Oh, I just read these example sentences and make sure that I know what they mean, and that's all it helps me remember the things. Like, well, yeah, it does help you remember those things, and then you'll forget those things because what you're doing is you're saying you're memorizing them to me, as opposed to, oh, I read them, explain them, and practice the routine of the grammar, right? So then when I ask someone, hey, what is this? Can you explain this to me? They would explain the grammar. They would explain the things that they remember, not what it typically sounds like. Someone will read this and it's like, oh, you said it wrong. You said it wrong. It sounds like this. And I'm like, that doesn't explain anything. That just tells me you memorized this and that's what it's normal. You can't explain this to me. You didn't explain the grammar. You just said it sounds wrong. And I'm just like, okay, explain yourself. Right? It's not a strong case. Generally speaking though, whenever I ask why or how, the idea is like, it's just wrong. People don't say it that way. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Not what I asked, but you know, cutting corners. I think that's kind of what my thoughts are. Like, I don't want to rely on reading a bunch of examples. Not just that. Like, I think it's a bottom line. When you want to learn a language and then you're going to immerse in it anyways, you're going to do all of that. You're going to get a lot of examples and of the same thing. It's kind of like the Duolingo thing, where when someone says, I don't want to see the same like pronoun or the same construction over and over again until I'm bored of it. It's like, well, that is what language is. Like, I say I like 100 times in a single day is a helping verb. You use a helping verb and a pronoun like over and over again. The idea is you think it's boring because you're constantly reminded of what you already know. That is the whole point. If you stop doing that, then it goes away. Largely because that's the only mechanism you're relying on. So examples are great. Construction plus examples, in my opinion, is better. And then construction, association, and repetition is better than any one of those alone. So for myself, that's what we're gonna keep doing. Like, sit here, go through it. Like, okay, well, what else do I have? Okay, like this has a verb in it. That's kind of how I learned English. So you do that, and if you don't want to do that, that is your choice to make. For myself, it's so entertaining. It's far more entertaining figuring out all the things that I do know, ruling out the things that I do know, and then figuring out all the things I don't know or have forgotten or a little rusty, and then keep on doing that. Because at the end of the day, this is an output that is related to the input. So I love doing this part. I think Wanikani, right, using Wanikani and Hanzi Hero, there's none of that. I genuinely love doing grammar exercises over vocabulary. Now, the thing about vocabulary is I've been doing it for a while now. So I've been doing it for over 2.5 years. So I can only make the routine keep on changing so much with a limited scope. So it's probably also because of recency bias. It's fun sitting here just thinking like, well, it can't be that, it can't be this. I can only imagine this is going to get much longer when we get to N3 and then N2. I think there is a chance we're not going to get that far. Like N1 is incomplete, or quote unquote incomplete. However, maybe N2 is also somewhat incomplete. The idea is you're going to have so many tools to look at one sentence or one question or something. And the cool thing is it feels like you're getting able to do it. So I'm like, what if you just do it this way? And eventually, which is what I hope is going to be an activity. I haven't decided how I'm going to do this yet, because this is the year of Bunpro, so we still have the rest of the year 2026 to transition, which is to how can I write this differently. So every time like a sentence comes up, right, like a grammar example comes up, how can I write it differently with a slight nuance change, or maybe capture in a different way? That's going to be my incentive in the future, where you see a sentence and you see the statement, it's like, well, what if I'm not sure? What do I do? So I'm already starting to do that, like the contrast between Soni, right, and Yoni, and doing the kosoado check on the various phrases that use kosoado. And then we have the checking for the te form as a conjunctive versus the stem, attaching it to an auxiliary thing. And then we have suffixes, prefixes. Sounds like English all over again. Only English is sufficiently different from Japanese that I can talk about English for days as well. Like reading someone's piece of work, I could talk about it for days because English construction is arguably as diverse, if not more diverse, largely because English is a mishmash of rules, right? The idea is that it wasn't curated and preserved strongly by traditionalism, at least in the way the world is now today. Like, you'll find very specific exceptions to pretty much anything in English, which makes it an oddball. However, in Japanese, there are quite a lot of consistencies, which makes the puzzle solving part really cool. Except for today, there's like one exception, right? Like through the change of time, like what was the one? De gozaimasu, right? De gozaimasu was an exception, but in my opinion, if you already speak English and you like grammar, which honestly, very few people that I've ever met in my life that said like, oh yeah, English grammar, that's what I want. That's the thing that got me to speak and write English. That's what I want. It's probably in the minority. I would say like 1 out of 10 people, if not less, would say, I learned English because I like English grammar. So the question is though, if you're telling yourself like, hey, I need to learn Japanese, and a lot of people recommended learning some grammar, right? Like Genki textbook, etc., all those things. You have to come to the realization that if you don't like grammar to begin with your native language, you would have to build habits to want to study and learn a target language with the grammar. So the odd part is whenever someone tells me, oh yeah, they really want to learn a new skill, and I'm like, okay, when was the last time you learned something that you want to learn? And then they would say something like, well, I learned to play a guitar, right? And then I would ask them, so how did you learn to play guitar? And they described on, off, quitting, not quitting, sometimes feeling awful, taking a break, occasionally practicing really hard, then stopping. Then all of those things will happen when you learn your next skill. Like, it's all nearly it. I don't, in my opinion, the learning part, the strategies and habits involved in learning, they're transferable, and they are also promiscuous. So if your best example of learning a skill is you're on and off, you burn out and, you know, go hardcore and burn out and then fall out and in of a skill, then it requires you to work on that. And this is tied into my digression here. My habits are built on curiosity and inquisition. So this does not get old because I have developed a habit to like this stuff, not the fact that you like results. Because results, that's going to be a mixed bag. So I do believe in when they tell me, when someone I'm speaking to informs me like, yeah, I only acquire skills depending on if I vibe with it or not, or if I can vibe in the, you know, the skill. It depends on the skill. If the skill ends up becoming easy and I have a natural knack for it and I'm like a bit talented, or I find it easy, then I would keep the skill. And I'm like, all right, then pick Japanese, do it for a little, vibe. If it's not, my advice is quit. Just quit. Because in my opinion, the person described to me what they do. They vibe and then quit if it doesn't work. They vibe. If it does start to work, they'll stick with it until it doesn't, and then they quit. So you don't make things work. You simply vibe the things that do work, even though the vast majority of things won't work. because there's no problem solving involved, right? There's no critical thinking involved. So that's pretty much where I'm sitting right now. I'm starting to get pretty consistent at thinking about what to say to people or occasionally interact with people when it comes to their learning habits. It's usually the learning habits and strategies that are, in my opinion, holding the potential back from people than the content itself. Like, the nature of Japanese being hard is masked, in my opinion, is masked by all the inconsistencies of their learning strategies. So like, I didn't see Japanese as hard. I was curious about if there are any differences and routines that I would need to develop in order to acquire Japanese. Not the content of Japanese. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it matters to me less than those who try to evaluate Japanese's difficulty based on what is there versus what they can do. So like, oh no, Japanese has 2,000 kanji and it's an entirely different system or script than English. I'm like, well, apples and oranges, thank you. Like, that's an apples and oranges comparison. But if that's daunting, then don't do it. Like, that would be my honest, upfront thing. If you think it's daunting and you haven't started yet and you don't understand the way you start and mature and do things as you're doing it, don't do it. Move to something you can, because if you're unable and you keep telling yourself each and every day, oh, why does Japanese have to be so hard? Or why does there have to be kanji? Then you're not learning anything, in my opinion. You're creating excuses in order to drag yourself down. So you pile up more and more excuses. Like, man, reads are so frustrating. Like, for me, I'm like, oh, I got that wrong again. I wonder what I can do, because that's the way Japanese is. So let's go find out how to make it useful and learn, right? Learn. So every time I make an error, it's like an opportunity to find a clever way of working with it, not ignoring it or avoiding it or deflecting from it until it piles up to the point where you have this like self-destructive relationship with learning Japanese. For the record, most common response that I've had when I ask someone, oh, so what happened? What caused you to quit studying Japanese? Self-destructive cycle with Japanese. But it's not because, in my opinion, of Japanese. Like, what I mean is the topic itself. The topic itself is not malicious in any nature. It's the person's habits. The person's learning strategy is what creates that self-destructive, burning out, churning. That, in my opinion, is a greater, if we had to make it a competition, a greater contribution, right? You can swap Japanese up for mathematics, for physics, for dieting, for calisthenics, for going to the gym regularly. Now, I have met a couple people who don't have habit formation problems. I would more likely believe them when they talk about the differences in the objective nature of comparing a script and a verb, because they no longer have the underlying problem or the underlying deficiency of learning skills, like skill learning in general, just the process of how they go about acquiring, I guess, intellectual education, right? That's not the main problem for the younger people that I've met. And you know what is very concerning to me is that is what, in my opinion, most people are convincing the young audience or people who are interested in language learning, that is their problem. Oftentimes, like it's kind of like the fitness area, fitness content creation 10 years ago. It's no longer it's sort of true still now, but not as true now, largely due to a lot of time. 10 years ago, it would be, oh, it's hard. These are what you have to do. Here are all the content you need to do to create, to lose weight and, do this stuff. Nowadays, it's about building habits, creating routines, and learning how to spend consistent time creating. Like, consistency is king, that situation. So it's talking about the behavior and the process. I think language learning is still in that middle ground. Language learning is certainly increasing in its trend because of cross-cultural interactions, especially for Japanese, right? However, the emphasis is incredibly misaligned, much like the crash diets of 10 years ago, the life hacks of like dieting and nutritional advice. I think language learning is still on that area where everyone says like, oh, here's my app version of maintaining all your habits that you can't do yourself and you can't even normalize because you don't even know what a good habit routine is, right? Hey, here's my app that combines all 5 of these tools in a schedule so that you don't ever have to schedule and know if you're on track. You simply have to believe my tool. I think the very basis of that is what's happening. And sure enough, if you ever click on the Wanikani and the Bunpro section of like, hey, what are other resources to do? The principle that works, that aligns all of the tools, like what tools work, what tools don't. The major driver for the tool that works is that they're compensating for your ability to schedule, create habits, and then have incentivized drive to learn the content and then iterate on that content and integrate new sources of input and encouraging the person to intellectually explore. You can take the Japanese out of those apps and put in a different topic and it will still be successful, in my opinion, largely still be successful. Because regardless of your interest, the foundations of creating a habit that you want to do is, in my opinion, arguably stronger than even your interest. So like, for example, getting a job and doing a job that you don't want to do. The heavy habitual incentive and routine can still outpace, oh, do you like it or not? So I hear this quite a bit more as a kind of like an excuse of when someone, I ask them like, oh, so why Japanese? Or like, why did you choose that? And then their answer is like, oh, it's because I like Japanese and Japanese culture. I'm like, well, does that mean that you can't learn any other thing without having to like it, right? Because there are going to be a lot of things that you do in the process of learning Japanese that you may not like. And I think that's one of the underlying crutches. You're assuming, a lot of times people are assuming that when you like something, you're going to like the entire process of doing it. And one of the biggest quitters, like quitting factors or bottlenecks in learning a language is learning a language, not what the language is. So the most common answer whenever someone says I'm going to learn Japanese is I like Japanese culture. That's not the process of learning a language. It might be like 1/10 of it, or it might provide motivation for you to do it. However, the motivation is the fuel source. It's great that you have a source of motivation. Now, how are you going to use that source of motivation in order to acquire so many things that you probably don't like because you didn't talk about them, right? Someone says, I like Japanese and I like Japanese culture. That's not the same as I like kanji. I like writing kanji. I like constructing sentences. I like speaking. I like writing. I like communicating between different languages. Those are more relevant to acquiring a language. Liking Japanese media and culture is your reward, right? It's the reward, it's the end game, it's the incentive that's driving your motivation. The ideal case is it's both. You like the act of learning a language or the process involved in learning something, as well as getting involved and immersing in Japanese culture and Japanese language. Most of the time, though, the angry people who keep accusing me of wasting my time for being enthusiastic about talking about learning all the time, right this moment, this example, they would say like, put the fries in the bag, Maku, like you're making a big deal about nothing. You just gotta grind through and learn how to do this so that you can get to the good stuff, get to the real stuff. If I had $1 for every time someone told me, oh, now you're doing real things. Like, I literally had this conversation. When I play a game and it happens to be in Japanese, someone might come by and say, oh, now you're actually doing real Japanese. You're actually consuming real content. All of this is real. All of it is real. The person that's talking to me is only viewing a small portion of what constitutes as satisfactory or useful to them. So my life, I don't think of as, oh yeah, I spend 90% of my time doing not real things and then spend 10% of the time doing real things. Like, oh, my job isn't real. I spend 90% of my time doing job to earn money so I can get to doing the real thing. Like, the real thing is the hobby or the thing you like. All of it is real. Being good at your job is real. Being good at your job also produces more real money. More real money gives you more real time with hobbies. So that, to me, and again, it's not something unexpected. I think the younger you get, the more and more likely I get that comment where someone says, why are you putting so much time into something that you're just going to forget and not use ever again? That's the point. I'm not going to forget the process of doing this and coming up with my routines and my mnemonics and stuff. You are going to, because it's not important to you. You don't care about the process enough to see or try to empathize with me about why the process is important. So that's a different story. You are entitled to not think what I'm doing is a big deal. You can't convince me that what I'm doing is not a big deal to me. So that is kind of the game changer. So whenever someone says, hey, what should I do about why do you find this always so interesting? And I'm like, why don't you not find any of this interesting? Because if someone told me they spend like 2 or 3 hours every day on Anki to learn Japanese words and kanji, my first thought is, I really do hope that you spend those 3 hours and most of those hours will be interesting. You develop an interest in it and you can do it, because I think life gets a lot harder, and life skill and all of that gets a lot harder when you spend the majority of time thinking, man, I can't wait for this to be over so then I can enjoy something later. In my opinion, the harsh reality is you're going to need those things, and you're either going to learn to enjoy them or you spend most of your life not going to enjoy them, which will take up most of your time. And for others, I mean, you can convince yourself too, like, hey, I'm finally fluent in Japanese. Now I get to throw away all the grammar and all the other stuff. It's like, okay. I mean, it is your right. I wouldn't. the first thing I would do is I would go back around and I would go talk to other people who learn Japanese, because now I can be of service, as in like I can make more value out of all of my tribulations, if there were tribulations and mistakes and whatnot. And that is the focus of all of this digression, which also paves into what I'm about to talk about in Hanzahiro, because today is day 500 for Hanzahiro. So we're going to do all this yapping thing later in the day. All right. Anyways, that's what I wanted to talk about today for like the Japanese section. I think it is incredibly sobering to find how often someone says they like learning and I hear they don't like learning. They do everything possible to avoid the process of learning in order to magically get skills and results without doing the work. And the internet made it very potentially an easy target to target those people. So if you're one of those people who see learn Japanese in 2 months and you're like, hot dog, take my money. It may work. I hope it does. For myself, if it takes 3 years, 6 years, the rest of my life, I'm gonna at least enjoy doing it. And that's not because it's Japanese. It's because it's learning. So I can substitute, or at least in my opinion, I smile about the opportunity to learn something, not what it is. And even then, if it just happens to be something I really like, that's extra. Like learning Japanese and Chinese is extra. I could be learning French. I don't know. That's fine too. When I get incentives, it's always extra. If you don't have enough of that, then I don't think learning things is for you. Cruising, vibing is probably more substantially satisfying. Whether that's enough to solve all your life's problems, I would be negligent to tell you that if you don't have any critical thinking or problem solving skills, that your life would just go smooth. No, I would be very irresponsible to tell anyone that life doesn't require critical thinking or problem solving skills in the form of learning for anyone. So I would be pretty direct to young people if I ever have their ear. You need, like, it is required that you develop sufficient critical thinking skills and problem solving skills through the process of learning as you grow, as you get older and older. So start, like, encourage yourself to do so. All right, anyways, that's a wrap for Bunpro today. If you're gonna watch this there, arigatou gozaimasu. As always, feel free to follow along, pick up Bunpro for yourself. You're always welcome to come on by and yap, exchange ideas, experiences, keep each other motivated to learn, right? Until next time, minasan mata ne. Mite kurete arigato. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. I'm gonna get up, take a quick bathroom break, stretch a little bit, and I'll be back for Hanzahiro. Thank you.